People ask me how I do my art. People naturally assume I use AI. At this point, people just assume everything is AI. So I decided it is long overdue time for me to pull back the curtain and show people how I do my art. So, very quickly, a bit about me. I ran a comic in the 90s. It was heavily influenced by Bill Watterson's ink brush technique. Then I went on to the Art Institute, which is now part of Lucille College. There I got my degree in 3D animation. What you're seeing here is just a clip from my demo reel. Then I worked at Vanguard Studios for a while. It takes about a month to build a fully rigged 3D character in Maya, and I had dozens of characters to draw. I figured it would take me over 3 years to do them all, and so I needed to find another way. It was 2022, and AI had just come out. Like everyone else, I was curious, so I thought I'd give it a try. People often forget just how horrible AI was when it first came out. I asked it to draw me a cartoon with underwear on its head, and it just couldn't comprehend that. No amount of prompts made any difference, it just flatlined. So I decided to stick with what I knew best, which was photo manipulation, or what is more commonly called photoshopping. I was trained in 3D primarily for video games, and this was and still is the preferred method in video games. In this image here, Jack and Finn are wearing their clothes inside out and backwards, and they have different shoes on each foot. This is to confuse forest spirits, it's part of the lore in my story. So I quickly grabbed an image of a red Converse shoe just off the internet. You might ask, but isn't this using photos kind of cheating? And I get it. From the outside, it might look like cutting corners. But here's the thing, in a professional level, in a studio environment, nobody cares how you made something. They care that it's good, on time, and within budget. If you're working at an animation studio, your talent is never questioned. They know you deserve to be there. Your project leads know that if you were to put your mind to it, you could draw every single leaf on a tree by hand. They know that. But in a studio such as that, bragging that you drew every leaf on a tree isn't a flex. It's proof you don't understand how the job works. If you can't deliver efficiently, your art doesn't make it to the rendering farm. So these shortcuts aren't done because the artist is incapable of traditional methods. If a computer can simulate something just as well in seconds and look no different, then you're expected to do that. Your talents are better spent on other things like concept design. The hardest way isn't automatically the best way. And I find for a lot of young artists still honing their skills, this is often a really tough lesson to learn. So here you'll notice I'm using a very old Photoshop program. I only do this to avoid paying the monthly subscription. Take this one for example. This one of Finn wearing his clothes inside out and backwards. AI has no idea how to draw that. Not because it's complicated, but because it's unfamiliar. There just isn't enough samples out there. Google barely has one or two, so when I ask AI to make it, the results just collapse into nonsense. AI just didn't understand what a drone looked like here, so again, AI would be of no help to me. I tried to see if AI could draw me a nun, but AI is heavily trained on anime, and all it understood was sexy warrior nun, not authentic 13th century nun. Some of the characters took me days, some took as long as a week. So whenever I could knock out some drawings really quickly, I did. And here is an Undertaker. I just took a skull, added spider legs. The first character I made for the website was the Ogre. I asked AI to generate me some reference, but everything it gave me was heavily influenced by World of Warcraft, and I just didn't like the look. So I took an image from Dungeons and Dragons and I morphed it into the pose I wanted and then began painting over it. But in the end, honestly, I hated the result. It looked too much like the Hulk. I gave him 3 toes on each foot and a hairy back, trying to make him look less like the Hulk. But honestly, I still hate this one. Well, this here is Toby the cat. He's a famous internet cat with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I hope I'm saying that right. AI couldn't even begin to generate this. It just gave me fat, wrinkly cat. Why? Because there's maybe 2 photos, these 2 photos, of a cat with EDS on the entire internet. That's just not enough information to train a model. You can hear my cat Pastor meowing in the background. And there you have it, Toby the cat. I wrote a children's book about Ferdinand the flea, who goes out to prove the world is round, only to discover he lives on a dog. AI just gave me a cartoon flea riding a dog in a forest. I knew I wanted it from the perspective of a flea. All I could find were these extreme close-ups of human skin. I tried drawing fur using the grass brush tool in Photoshop, but it wasn't giving me the control I wanted. So I decided I had to draw a collection of fur and quip out each one, layer them all on one at a time. Then I made a character sheet of arms and limbs, and I painted each one. Here you can see me painting on all the highlights. Sorry, there's not much else going on here, just me drawing in each of the highlights on different layers and tweaking the color. Here you can see me using a 7% noise filter, which is a trick CGI artists use to make their images look less digital, less graphic, but unfortunately it also triggers AI detectors. Here you can see me adding faces and limbs, kind of like Mr. Potato Head. And this here is one of the nighttime sequences. This is where Luna the tick sets out to try to prove to Ferdinand that the world is flat. So this next scene is the Great Hall from my Fablestone series. I was inspired by the attic of the Westminster Abbey, which you can see here. This is a really good example of my photo manipulation technique, probably my best example. This whole photo took me about a week to complete. What you're seeing here is my recreation of that. I took the original Photoshop file and I'm redoing it. So here you're just seeing me clone out the scaffolding with the patch brush. And then I'm just painting over the bits I don't want, adding on filters and layers for tint and color, adding in shadows. Then I grab some suits of armor from the internet, and now I'm just warping it and using Liquify to distort it into the shape I want. I'm adding paint daubs, and then I'm dodging and burning in highlights and shadows very quickly. It's surprisingly easy. and gives me pretty much exactly what I want. Very little work. And here you can see me grabbing an image of some stands, display stands. I am quickly separating them and distorting them into the shape I need. And then I burn in some shadows and highlights. I don't spend a lot of time. Then I am drawing a glass display case with a fork. It's Tabitha's gold fork. President Lincoln's cat had a gold fork, and this is that fork. I also added a vase, some highlights, some reflections. Then I quickly added some floating oil paintings and some chandeliers made from antlers, jackalope antlers. Then came the hardest part, which was the jackalopes. This actually took me about 3 days. What you're seeing here is a very quick 30-minute imitation of that process. I'm just doing I'm like a speed version of this to give you a sense of how of my process. So normally I would do layers upon layers of paint work over top of this photo, um, tweak it a little bit here and there with liquid, add filters, more layers, more filters. The goal here is to get it to about 98% complete. It doesn't have to be perfect, and I'll show you why in a second. You're going to take the final piece and you are going to put it into an upscaler like Topaz, or you can use AI, but if you use AI, you have to turn the creation meter off and you can't use any prompts. Prompts are going to change the image and you don't want it to change. You want it to be redrawn exactly as it is. The advantage to doing this is by the time you scale the image back down, it will hide all your mistakes. I do use AI for some things like ink splotches or screen effects, which you can also see here. And that's everything. If you want to see more of my work, you can check out my website at jeffreyjmatson.com, or you can buy my books. And I'll promise from this point on to make more of these videos as I continue to illustrate more children's books.